Coaching's unholy alliance, prosperity gospel meets new thought. Modern coaching often presents itself as the cutting edge of human development. The sales pitch is slick: learn to reframe your mindset, manage your state, and unlock your potential. At first glance, it feels like psychology reimagined for the boardroom. But scratch beneath the surface and a very different story emerges. Coaching's central dogma, your success depends on your thinking, your failure means you did not think hard enough, is not a modern innovation. It is the offspring of two much older belief systems: the New Thought movement of the early 20th century and the Christian prosperity gospel amplified by multi-level marketing schemes like Amway. Together, they created an ideology that has been recycled for decades, each time with new branding, but always with the same promise. Napoleon Hill the Shyster. The roots of coaching's mindset obsession lie in the New Thought movement of the late 19th and early 20th century. Figures like Phineas Quimby and Charles Fillmore popularized the idea that human thoughts could shape external reality. It was not science, it was wishful philosophy. Into this environment stepped Napoleon Hill, one of the most notorious self-help frauds of the 20th century. Hill built his reputation on false claims of being mentored by steel magnate Andrew Carnegie, even though there is no evidence Carnegie ever met him. He repeatedly lied about his business ventures and left behind a trail of failed schemes. Yet in 1937 he published Think and Grow Rich, a book that remains one of the best-selling self-help texts of all time. Hill offered no science, no data, no credible evidence. His formula was simply: believe strongly enough, visualize clearly enough, and wealth will follow. That message has echoed through every wave of self-help since. Its appeal is obvious. It tells people they can control their destiny by thought alone. Its danger is equally obvious. It blames anyone who fails for simply not believing enough. From the beginning, the self-help industry was not a science. It was a sales pitch. Hill proved that charisma, confidence, and a willingness to stretch the truth were enough to create a movement. Coaching has been repackaging that same shyster logic ever since. Amway and the prosperity gospel. Fast forward to post-war America. Companies like Amway did not just sell soap and vitamins. They sold a worldview. Founders Rich DeVos and Jay Van Andel wrapped their multi-level marketing in conservative Christian rhetoric, positioning Amway not only as a business, but as a moral mission. Here the prosperity gospel came into play. Wealth and power were reframed as signs of divine blessing. To prosper financially was not greedy or sinful, it was virtuous. The more successful you were in Amway, the closer you were to living out God's plan. This theology gave permission to chase money without guilt. It turned the pyramid into a pulpit. And it embedded the belief that failure was not structural or systemic, but personal. You lacked the faith, discipline, or mindset. The Tony Robbins mutation. Enter Tony Robbins. A disciple of Jim Rohn, who himself toured the Amway circuit, Robbins did not invent the ideology. He industrialized it. His early years were steeped in the multi-level marketing motivational culture, where belief was marketed as the engine of wealth. Robbins fused this with neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, borrowing its pseudo-psychological language of state management, anchors, and frames. He then scaled it into high-energy stadium events. The prosperity gospel lost its overt Christianity and was reborn as personal power. The formula did not change. Success. You believed, visualized, and acted with certainty. Failure. You held limiting beliefs or sabotaged yourself. What changed was the packaging. Robbins created a billion-dollar empire by selling the same loop Amway had pioneered, only now framed as science and psychology rather than theology. NLP, the pseudo-psychology bridge. NLP deserves special mention because of how seamlessly it merged the two traditions. Created in the 1970s by Richard Bandler and John Grinder, NLP claimed to decode the language and strategies of successful people. In reality, it lacked empirical support from the start, dismissed by psychologists as pseudoscience. But it offered exactly what the self-help world craved: the veneer of psychology without the rigor. NLP practitioners talked about reframing, patterns, and state in ways that sounded scientific, but were often lifted directly from new thought ideas. For coaches, it became the perfect bridge. They could present themselves as more than motivational speakers, but less than therapists, a new class of practitioners offering tools that promise transformation without accountability. NXIVM, when coaching becomes cult. If Robbins industrialized belief as entertainment, Keith Raniere weaponized it as control. Before founding NXIVM, Raniere was influenced by Amway and studied how Robbins sold mindset and transformation. He saw that people would pay extraordinary amounts of money for the promise of self-mastery and freedom. NXIVM's executive success programs looked like another coaching curriculum. Participants were told they would learn to overcome limiting beliefs, reframe their identity, and achieve breakthroughs. The language was nearly identical to Robbins and NLP, but the outcomes were far darker. Films like What the Bleep Do We Know provided credibility through co-directors like Mark Vicente, who later joined NXIVM. NLP techniques such as anchoring and reframing were built directly into ESP exercises. On the surface it was self-development. In practice it was indoctrination. The difference was not the content, but the control. Robbins created a cult-like following that worshipped his charisma. Coaches build cult-like loyalty through communities and networks. Raniere turned those same tools into an outright cult, complete with hierarchy, secrecy, and exploitation. NXIVM shows the danger in pretending coaching and self-help are harmless. The same pseudoscience that fuels glossy leadership programs can, under the wrong leader, slide into coercion and abuse. Coaching today, secularized prosperity. Modern coaching and leadership programs are the latest mutation of this lineage. The language has shifted again. We no longer talk about God's blessing or Napoleon Hill's burning desire. Instead, we hear about mindset, intentionality, reframing, and resilience. But the underlying logic is the same. Your thoughts create your reality. If you are not succeeding, it is because you have not shifted your thinking. The system is never the problem, you are. This belief is now sold at every level, from executive leadership retreats to Instagram manifesting gurus. Coaching firms dress it up in glossy corporate language, but it is the same story Hill, Amway, Robbins, and Raniere sold before them. The trap of blame. The brilliance of this ideology lies in its self-protection. Whatever happens, the system wins. If you succeed, the coach or framework gets credit. If you fail, it is your fault for not thinking right. This is the same logic that keeps multi-level marketing distributors trapped for years, buying products and attending rallies despite never turning a profit. Coaching borrows the same trick. You are never allowed to question the model itself, only your own application of it. Why this matters? It is easy to dismiss this as harmless self-help. But the consequences are real. Individuals internalize failure as personal weakness. Families are destabilized when one partner embraces an ideology that reframes loyalty, love, and commitment as limiting beliefs. Companies waste millions on leadership programs built on pseudoscience. The cost is not just financial. It is psychological, relational, and cultural. By overselling, overreaching, and overcharging, coaching entrenches the same cycle that has fueled self-help empires for a century. Same story, new name. Coaching today is not a new frontier of human development. It is the unholy alliance of two old belief systems, New Thought pseudoscience and Christian prosperity gospel. Together they have produced a simple but powerful creed. Success is proof of right thinking. Failure is proof you did not believe enough. This ideology has been repackaged over and over, from Napoleon Hill to Amway, from Robbins to NLP, from multi-level marketing schemes to NXIVM, and from leadership retreats to corporate coaching. Each time the labels change, but the promise remains the same. The uncomfortable question is not whether coaching has its place, it does. The real question is, if coaching has value, why does the industry insist on selling it through pseudoscience, ideology, and empty promises? Until coaching can answer that honestly, it will remain less a profession and more a recycled belief system in search of a new audience.